someone to talk about MNM. I mean, might as well jump to you.
Man, yeah.
Top 3 rapper, in my opinion.
In many people's eyes, he is indeed. Yeah, I feel like Eminem just seemed to be struggling in many different facets, right?
Okay.
We've seen a very strong-looking Eminem before. That was on 12-9. That was before the game effectively just entirely changed. And now we're looking at an Eminem who, you know, have to deal with this whole enchanter meta, or potential enchanter meta, right? Which it seems to be how most teams are landing. And it just didn't seem to be their style, because Eminem, even historically as an org, if you're talking back down to when they were in the UKLC, they just seem to field players that just love go bounce, go, 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 go. They will just fight endlessly. It's a complete bloodbath. Now we're looking at slower paced games, and it just seems like 12-10 hasn't been their patch so far. They just need a little more time, and we'll see how they adapt. The big question for me is, will they go back to maybe just these bloodbath style of games? Because it seems like it's still playable on 12-10.
I honestly, like, and I also think, like, just in general, this is not a roster where I would think, like, as soon as I saw it, they would be in the position that they are. I could have easily seen this in a 2-2 roster like the rest of them. I actually think that in terms of what I'm looking at the caliber of players, I genuinely thought they've been underperforming as to what their usual level could be.
Yeah, and I think even if we sort of rewind time a whole year, do you remember the Resolve roster? Because we all had fairly high hopes of that, to be honest with you. At the very least, you know, making playoffs and potentially a deep run with development. This is half of that roster, so my expectations are just give them time.
Is this the one with the Telia Masters?
No. That's
okay.
right before it.
I see.
If I may, I can pick on that sentence and look to Astralis.
Sure.
What can we talk about Astralis? Because they started really good.
Yeah.
They're shaking a little bit.
Oh, was this? That's a cool stat, because this was spring split. 2-2. It looked okay, not the best. And then, yeah, by the end of the split, things collapsed. But again, I feel like now that they have a different coach,
you know,
leading the project, and of course, you know, they swap out Cuba. I have a lot of faith in Vando's philosophy and how he makes teams work in the NLC at the very least.
I mean, he's a former champion of the NLC.
Exactly.
Of course. I think the thing I was going to say, this is from back when we had a clear Elite Four we were kind of talking about, and all of a sudden Astralis just plummeted immediately. Some of the issues that we saw from back then was that they struggled to get that bot lane to play for and get that going. One of the reasons that we have Keeper now as well down there instead of Vindel back then, but also just the in-game decisions. And I think that is the toughest test that Ventetto will have to feel for this Astralis, is that I don't ever think that the player's caliber or individual skill was ever in question. I think it was when you put these 5 players together, somehow it just didn't click, and it never really worked for them. And they were saying for the longest time, you know, scrims are going well. We are beating teams like Fnatic, Team Queso in scrims. We are taking, you know, games from stronger teams as well, but they were just never, ever able to properly transition that to an official game.
Okay, I'm hungry right now, so I need to jump into Champions Select. I need action, I need blood, and I need to see what's going to happen between Astralis and MNM. So kick off with the Champion Select.
That's usually what you get from when you get in-game, not so much from Champion Select. It's way more slow-paced.
Today has been really revealing, though. We're getting a lot of Champion Selects that decide the game before we jump in. At least the execution of them.
I suppose so, yeah. And for me, I mean, MNM already have a 3 next to their name, so I guess they lost. Oh, wait, no, because they have lost 3 games. My brain, I thought they were 2-2. Anyway, yeah,
it's what we wanted them to be, perhaps.
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, for me, the big question for MNM is, are they going to try and continue to adapt to 12-10 in the sort of what I'll start to dub the traditional sense now? Or are they going to go back to what they were kind of looked the most confident on 12-9 to try and, you know, just have force the issue kind of champions, snowball champions, your Lucian, your Kalista, you know, things that will innately get a lead in the bottom side, because that's what I feel like Mishiku looks the strongest on as well. The things that can get aggressive in lane with good support matchups, Kai'Sa as well comes to mind, Samira, things like that, or are we just going to get the scaling?
And while that's relevant for draft, right, I still honestly feel like maybe sometimes it's a bit copying, saying we just have to get used to how this patch functions. While it is true, some matchups are still the same, and it is still the same the way it's been played. I think that you need to not make this game too difficult for yourself and be free to just, you know, pick whatever you really are comfortable on and make it work. Obviously, we are starting to see power picks that are coming through that we've seen loads of time. But this time around, I can't actually see the screen because there's a camera in there.
Don't worry, no one's picked yet, but Gwen is up, and so is Renard. So Renard will be the champion of choice for Astralis now. Whenever Gwen and Wukong have both been up like this, teams have actually tended to take the Wukong ahead of it. Now, MNM being on red side, you could technically just take both, but I really haven't seen too many teams double dip like that on red side. What I would expect is MNM to take up the Wukong at the very least, and then perhaps we'll get, you know, something like, I guess, the Lulu. I was going to say another support to try and match into the round. Seems
now tell me again, what's the win rate of Lulu so far in our league?
It's 0%.
There we have it.
It doesn't bode well.
So far, I'll say stats don't always tell the true story.
No.
I definitely think Lulu is still a very much strong champion for this patch, specifically for extended team fights. I also think it works really well with champions like Wukong, extra speed up, or just him giving you that extended team fight, because it's very difficult to deal with once he starts that cyclone. So far, it's looking decent from the side of MNM, and what you want to run it out from now for Astralis, like you can go for an AD carry pick if you want to with Renata, but the champion pool is still very steep, so there's a lot of power picks still to open up for.
The Forbidden one still up and available. The Scissor Lady, and I think that would probably just be the strongest way to round out. I think you take that off the board, so MNM can't, you know, take it on R3 and then potentially ban away to sort of counter picks.
Yeah.
And I think you're always going to be okay with no matter what AD matchup you have with Renata. Even if MNM decide to go for something super hyper carry here with the Lulu, I think MNM now have to think about, you know, that top side matchup or the bottom side matchup and picking between which one they'd prefer to get pinched.
And that's the thing. I feel like, though, if you want to attack something that was a little bit shaky, we've seen Carlson, we've talked about it as well. He's a development player, right? 16 years old, unless he had a birthday this year. I don't know. He was 16 in spring so far, right? A guy where, you know, he had carry performances in the first week on the Renekton where he was an absolute beast in spring. Then I think people started to figure out that he doesn't get all too many resources and doesn't do too well with low resources either. So if you wanted to attack him, that could have been an attack point, but they've opted in for the Gnar here, which is still a fine matchup, but Gwen later can take over side.
Okay, looking into the bans now. We take the Azir, expected. It seems, though, that MNM are trying to look for the team fight composition versus a Renata. We've seen this constantly, that if you don't have the control, the vision control, it doesn't work out for you.
Yeah.
And stats lie a little bit, but I've seen the vision from MNM. It's not that good.
And I'm starting to kind of worry for MNM in that sense, because I feel like Renata as a champion thrives in two conditions, right?
Okay.
Teams that really, really hard dogpile, and teams that actually have very limited forms of engage,
Yeah.
and can't actually struggle to get onto the backline. So the Renata almost kind of like works at both extremes, and right now MNM are kind of lacking a true hard go ban, and I think Renata is going to really thrive. Kiba should have a pretty okay time depending on what the AD matchup is as well. So I think teamfight, yeah, they're looking for it, but they really need to find, you know, a little bit more burst. I think would be the best way for them to navigate out of the situation.
I mean, it's either that or you just have lanes where you all the time can say, we will be first on the objective, we
Yeah.
will get his stacking, but that is just not the most reliable win condition because things go wrong. So there is human error in all of it, so just having winning lanes sometimes is not always enough. So I completely agree with Jamad on that front as well. And now, different bans coming through, mid laners and AD carries. So 3 birds being banned and 1 psychotic girl. That's very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, now the question is, my earpiece just leaves my ear. What is the choice of AD? I think for MNM, right? You still have a lot of the hyper carries up that pair up with the Lulu. Maybe they want to go back to the Twitch, which we saw in their game against Riddle. It didn't particularly go well, but I think now, you know, with the potential of a different lane matchup, it could be all right. I think for Chrisberg, though, like kind of pick a little, I would maybe look at trying to play a kill lane into this or something that can scale just as well.
I think you can definitely go for the scaling option if that's what you're looking for. The most difficult one on that side is that I think, yeah, you could try and answer it with Cockmore, but then again, there's reliable backline dives. So I would actually think that going for the kill lane is maybe a little bit better. You also have Renata. Renata does extremely well with any champion that goes for resets. So already likes of the Viego, absolutely disgusting.
Nasty.
If Tristana is locked in as well, absolutely disgusting because Tristana will literally just send it, jump in there, get this explosive, and then if the damage isn't really there, you die, well, you still revive as soon as you get the kill afterwards. So I definitely think that's a strong combo coming down in the bot lane.
Yeah, and I think what's great about the Tristana pick too is that it has a lot of self-pill into what is very like full committal dive, yes, with the Gnar and Wukong, but it's not the kind of dive that is always going to consistently lock you down. If you've got the bailout and if you can time those rocket jumps perfectly, you'll always be fine. And we get another Swain, and hopefully, unlike last game on Tempt, it actually gets to, you know, play the game a little bit. And I'm curious as to what MNM really want to round out their comp with. Again, I think they need more burst. I think they need more setup. I think they need to be able to just completely remove members once Twitch opens out. And honestly, Orianna kind of fits that bill. You know, once you get to that 2-iron mark, yes, you might not be able to one-shot people like you used to be able to on 12-9, but realistically, you know, Shockwave into a rat-tat-tat from Twitch, you should be able to blow up, you know, at the very least the squishies, put them into bailout form at worst.
My only worry right now for MNM is the durability on basically all the champions coming through from Astralis here. It's absolutely insane, right? Like, if they take over games, Gwen, you're not going to kill her. Viego, you're not going to kill her. Swain, you're not going to kill him. And even if you do, what's that? Renata bailout being up and available all of a sudden, a takedown is going to fix that issue. I think extended team fights from the likes of Astralis, why they don't have an immediate go button. If they're first on the objective, there's not a lot of reliable poke coming through for an MNM. It's a team fight we're going into.
I really have to say, whoever's first to objectives here is just winning out so hard, I feel like, because with the lack of engage on both sides and the amount of sort of, when I say engage, like hard engage in Lawrence Leona, I think the fact that, you know, there's so much anti-dive on both sides too, really does make it a game of, I think whoever makes it the objective first, if all things are at parry, I think they just almost automatically win the team fights here, come the neutral objectives.
It's a game that will allow Astralis to jump into the top of the standings or probably get MNM in the middle of the pack, a little bit more secure from the previous week. But let's see what happens inside of the Rift as soon as Viperoon and Trouble take it up.
Neither team is jumping anywhere. There's no movement. There's just, we're going to sit here. You're going to sit over there.
And we're all going to sit together with the other 8 teams around.
I mean, I am just confusion. I was led to believe from great scholars of League of Legends.
It means me, but it's fine. You can.
And no, well.
It's trouble. It's fine.
That engage is important.
You remember the Dusty game we just watched where there wasn't much heavy engage? That lasted about 45 minutes.
Look, all I'm saying is that if this Swain has
Mandate?
the ability to play League of Legends, even just a little bit, I will be happy.
You forgive Monday.
Yeah, I forgive Tempt. Tempt can do no wrong in my eyes, except for his wave management last game, which was wrong. But this game...
Can do no wrong apart from when he does.
We're into our 4th game of the day, everybody. We've got Astralis Talent on the blue side. We've got MNM Gaming on the red side. We got a Twitch. We got a Tristana. We got a lot going on.
Do you know what this Orianna skin is called?
Orbiana? B? There's a B in there somewhere.
There is, but I don't know. That's what I'm asking you.
I would say Orbiana makes the most sense in terms of where you'd put
That's
the
really
word
cute,
B.
actually. All right, so back into League of Legends. I feel like Astralis have gotten a bunch of S tier picks right here.
Yes.
Having the Gwen, the Viego, perma-scaling, love team fighting later on, and then on the bot side of the map, you've got Renata, which holds a really important tool when it comes to team fighting, which is her ultimate. Now, if you look at MNM, they've got great engage,
yes.
They've got great disengage, they've got great peeling, they've got great shielding. They pretty much have everything they need for proper team fighting. So as long as they don't fall behind and Michigo gets to go rat-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta in team fights, I think it's going to be very peachy for them. Now, the problem is, if you guys remember the game from Bifrost last week, which went to 50 minutes, Odie's Rat could not play the game. And right here, you're playing Twitch into Renata ult, Tristana jumping on you, you've got Swain hitting you from far away, Viego, Gwen, there's like a bunch of things. And if you get found in the team fights before you actually get to open up with your ultimate, it becomes really difficult for your team to move in. This is why I believe it was very important what Jamada says the first team at objectives will have a massive advantage because you cannot walk through Orianna Ball or not, and you can also not walk through a tight choke point when you know there's a Renata on the enemy team.
Absolutely. While MNM have themselves a little bit more engaged than Astralis do, the fact of the matter is, there's so much disengaged from Astralis, and the fact is
that's their game.
You can just say like, we're gonna jump in now, and they're like, no, you're not, and they're like, okay, cool, that's fine. We're gonna just have to wait for Michigo to get to that 45-minute mark, which he will be terrifying at, but Tristan on the other side is gonna be able to do just as much, if not more, when it comes to the late game.
I feel like Astralis have been a little bit inactive in the early game a lot of the times, and that comes through Taxa not being willing to take a bunch of risks to try and get his lanes ahead, right? He's more of a laid back, let's farm towards late game and let's team fight, which is also the name of the game for Astralis a lot of the time. That's why you see them picking a lot more of the peeling and kiting back compositions, playing for the AD carry, which right now this AD carry wants to jump in. It doesn't want to kite backwards. It's a kill AD carry. You want to be jumping in, you want to play a kill lane, you've got Renata, handshake someone towards you, get Tristana to jump onto them and do damage. But just because the Lulu is right there and the polymorph can come through, the trade might not necessarily be advantageous.
It's going to be a lot of positioning, isn't it? You're going to want to see, look, Viego can get involved but is a little bit short range. Gwen can get involved but is a little bit short range. If you can get those right flanks coming through, then suddenly Astralis Talent's roster is very, very scary, the composition that they've built, rather. But they're going to need to be showing off exactly how good they can be. These players, as we were talking about what the issue was with Astralis Talent last split, the players are all very good. Kiba's already shown he's a very good player, but it's this combination of players. Can they step up?
Wait a second. I feel like Sencux saw somebody pop the plant behind him, and he knew it wasn't anyone from the lane, so he might have to blow his flash out here, and he will. It was a little bit of slow reactions. I think it's the same thing with Tempt, right? Where you're just about to crush your wave and you're like, you know what, I'm gonna 50-50, try to burst that wave so it doesn't get frozen in front of an enemy tower. But right now, Sencux is in a position where his lane is gonna get frozen for a little bit in front of enemy tower, and Wukong is still around. At this point, you need to call your support through the mid lane. Kiba even run through the Scuttle Crab ward to make sure that they know that there's a second person in the mid lane. And as you can see, Soft, he's not gonna try for yet another gank and wrapping around. He's gonna most likely go towards his golems.
And just looking at Taxa, again, as you mentioned, not really wanting to be involved in this early stage, just wants to get that full cleared down. Top lane's very, very pushed in, so could consider that one, but it looks like there's a good idea. Soft and the MNM, they've been pinging down onto where he is. And while we do that, let's have a look at another tweet, shall we?
Let's do this.
All right. Bifrost Michael, Jax Black, Creox, Tempt, Demvox, they FGG.
Is Tempt 3 out of 3 in there?
Well, it's Tempt, isn't it? I mean...
Okay, so you can't pick two members
From the same team.
from the same team.
Yes.
So from X7, we've had only Tempt.
Yes.
From XL, we've had 2 times Dan, and now it's FGG.
Yep.
Yep. And I think we had them Voxnet twice
I think
as
we might
well.
have had Jax Plank.
And Jax Plank twice as well.
A lot of love for Jax Plank this time around, and honestly, his performance today, definitely deserving of some love up on that top side playing the Gnar. Of course, was not the biggest impact of his team because...
You say that, he soaked damage really well.
Yeah, but Stefan and Vladdy were
It's like-
terrifying in that game. Not saying the Jax Plank wasn't good, I'm just
For you to
saying...
be the sword, someone has to be the shield, or it doesn't work.
Nah, just
It's a team game.
Dual wield.
It's a team game. No, you don't dual wield, you just die if you dual wield. No, watcha.
It's just much cooler though, isn't it?
He's doing it IRL as well, guys.
Yeah, of course.
Swinging around his
Do you want
arms.
to show the people how it's done? And by the people, I mean the people in the production studio, because...
It's just me.
No, and you, yeah. I mean, getting back into the game a little bit. Soft's just dove in towards the Dragon. Level 4 on the Wukong, just wants to be starting this one up, and he's got a lot of support from the rest of his team, so that's an excellent play there. The Vision of Empire will give Vision that the Dragon is being done, but I don't think there's much that Astralis Talent can do.
That is very clever as well, because Sencux lost his flash, which means he can't shove in his lane really quickly, which means that Chimera gets to roam the map first. And why I'm saying that this is very important is because in the bot lane for Astralis, whenever you have a Tristana lane, you usually, not usually, like 9 out of 10 times you have the push. Tristana cannot slow push because of the passive, which explodes a minute, and when it dies, you perma-shove bot lane, which means that Astralis should technically always have priority towards the bot side of the map and can be able to walk into river. But just because right now Chimera can walk on the map first before Sencux, it gives the ability for MNM to walk into that river, secure that first dragon, and start possibly stacking the map for later on fights.
And that's something that you've always got to be considering. Tristana creates such a unique gameplay situation just because of that, as you said, perma-pushing status. It's not, I wouldn't call it an ability, it's just a case of she's always going to be hard pushing. She's going to be getting that priority, but she's going to be a bit vulnerable to the ganks, and I'm just interested to see how it develops.
So this is something interesting that G2 were doing a lot. When Reckless was playing in the team, they used to play a lot of Tristana, and what Jankos used to do is shadow bot side, shoving that wave really quickly, and then together with the bot lane, you invade bot quadrant of enemy jungle and you take everything. Which is why I'm looking at Taxa right now, because it doesn't necessarily seem to be the case. Like when he decided to invade, it was a little bit too late to sort of run away with his blue buff. This is why I'm asking for a little bit more creativity for Astralis, especially since you have Tristana, especially since you know you're going to have this perma shove in bot lane. Use it to your advantage and make that Wukong suffer. So far, Taxa has fallen behind about 10 CS, and now they're starting that Rift Herald as well. But it's going to be a 4 versus 4 towards the top side of the map. Chimera still stuck in the mid lane trying to shove in the wave, and I don't necessarily think that MNM are going to try to fight for this.
Looks like they're just going to try and get as much push down in the mid lane as they possibly can, knowing that they're probably a little bit too late to the situation, but are just going to try and get themselves a nice wave state going into the jungle invading, getting as much as they can on the other side of the map.
Yeah. And if anything, again, I feel like Soph has a better grasp on his pathing right now, because he's like, okay, we're losing Rift Herald. What can I do to replicate that success from my team? We can shove in that mid wave, we can force Astralis to show up on the map, we can take the Wraiths away. He keeps that lead for himself, the experience lead and the gold lead. He has 2 more camps to take at this point, and I'm wondering if potentially we could see a fight really soon, because 2.5 minutes, the second dragon's coming up, it's going to be a Cloud Drake, unless it always shows a Cloud Drake up there and I've been baited.
I believe it is a Cloud Drake this time around, which is...
It's good news, because it means whatever Drake spawns after, the teams are going to be very inclined to take that as a soul.
Absolutely, and when you've got dragons that are useful to contest, and of course teams want to contest every dragon because it's always a positive thing to secure it.
You just fight for Elder, it's fine.
Yeah, exactly, but when it's a Cloud Dragon, some teams are like, it's not that fussed about it, but when it's something in Hex Tech, you're like, boy, get down to Dragon. I don't care that you don't have teleport, you're walking, lad. As these teams will want to contest and grab themselves the best buffs they possibly can. As we see Soph just clearing away his Gromp and getting rid of as much gold, or gaining as much gold as he possibly can, which is always going to be positive. And as you said, Taxa, the thing with Taxa now is he's got this Rift Herald in pocket, so that means that he's got gold in Potentia. He needs to now match what was lost on the other side of the map when he took it. Where can he do that? It's going to be difficult to see where he's going to want to drop that one. Taxa he's just going to continue clearing. This is something that we talked about already. We said, look, Taxa doesn't want to have the biggest impact in the early game. He wants to clear, he wants to farm, but he's fallen behind them.
Yeah, again, it feels like Soph is a little bit faster on the map, on taking things away whenever he spots Taxa on the map. And when it comes to Rift Herald, you usually want to use it either bot lane to like free your bot lane, and with Tristana and how fast it takes towers, you use that Rift Herald to take like the remaining few plates. There's already 1 down. If you can push with Tristana to take 1 more tower plating, you can drop it there. A lot of the times, teams will also drop it in the mid lane just to create pressure when a big objective is coming up. And right now, we mentioned it, it's going to be another dragon coming up on the Rift, so you definitely might want to contest that, or MNM are going to have 2 for themselves. Again, Chimera is the first one to walk onto this river, which makes it really difficult for Astralis to try and attack from multiple sides, because you cannot walk over Orianna Orb.
And if you do, it's going to be a very bad time. And of course, remember that they do have the Twitch delivery system for the Orianna Orb and for the Lulu Ultimate if they want to go for some very DIY engage tools.
I cannot wait for the Twitch to walk body first into an entire team just for the shockwave to hit.
Yeah, I mean...
I've never seen this before.
Have you never? You have not been playing at the elos that I've been playing at, because I'm saying if Mishku dies a couple of times, it's like, the kitty is gone, send me in. Is going to dive on forward, but Astralis sending the Rift Herald bot lane, which does make a lot of sense, because they've got Chrisberg down there on the Tristana, who's very good at demolishing towers as it is.
Soph is there too, which means that this Rift Herald will not take the bot lane tower. And now the Dragon has spawned as well. Again, Chrisberg is going to shove down that wave. Chimera first again onto that river, which might actually give second Dragon away to MNM. So what is very important right here is that bot lane tower has not fallen, which locks Chrisberg and Kiba still on that bot side of the map, which means that for the next few minutes you cannot move Tristana around to take more tower platings, which has diminished the damage that this Tristana could have technically done with this Rift Herald. Had Soft not been down there, Crispin would have hit the tower a few more times, that tower would have gone down. You can instantly transition Tristana towards the top side of the map, take more tower platings there. This is how you snowball these types of champions in the early game that actually want to get strong really fast. Talking about getting strong really fast, that's another mandate, Swain. So I definitely have to go back home and do some research on that, because I'm really, really interested as to why the mandate is happening right here onto that champion. But very importantly, Kraken Slayer build for Crispin. He's going to be ripping through those HP bars, especially with the true damage. And as well, for Mishigu, a buffed Blade of the Ruin King is going to be the first item of choice. So 2 AD carries with the 2 first items complete.
And that's going to be damage coming through. The ultimate burned by Mishigu just to make sure that that tower stays alive a little bit longer. Taxa slightly late to the party, but can be looking to defend, but throws down and shows where he is.
So which one is it? Is it rat-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta, or is it spray and pray? Because it's been changed about 50 times.
I believe it's currently called spray and pray.
Okay, perfect.
But you do still you shout rat-ta-ta-ta-ta when it happens.
Because it's a rat.
Because if you don't shout it, it doesn't work.
That's true.
The problem.
It doesn't do max damage if you
Yeah.
shout it.
It's the same as like if you're not shouting when you use like Tryndamere ultimate, it doesn't
Or
work.
Karen.
Demacia! Like, it doesn't actually change your gameplay experience too much, but I promise you, if you start verbalizing in your League of Legends games, folks, you will win 1% more of your games.
1%?
Yeah, because you can't prove
Well, that's 1%
wrong.
more than what they were winning previously, so I guess you take those.
If you're playing with me, then that is true. MNM, Soft's on the side. Soft has been very, very good with his pathing this game. He's been shadowing exceptionally well on the Wukong.
Apparently he's fallen a level behind right now, because MNM are more focused on trying to diminish the damage that's being done by Astralis and that Tristana, rather than getting that Wukong a little bit further ahead. And even though he's not that far behind, somehow Taxa, from being behind, he has found himself ahead, getting that Rift Herald, getting that experience, making sure he pushes the towers, he's around for that experience, he's farming his jungle. So far, so well. It's been a very Astralis game, I have to say. Very slow, very low kills, very methodical. And I'm going to press the button because that's my production, but they haven't replied. So I'm going to assume this is a new roster.
It's me.
And it is.
It's my roster.
Oh, that's your roster?
Yeah. What do you think?
Wait, you got FGG.
Yeah.
Your favorite jungler, Kraox.
Obviously, he's triple.
Hairbrush, because he's been smurfing it.
I did this after.
Hempt, 4 out of 4.
Obviously.
He's the only player
Last
that's
game
4 out of 4.
notwithstanding, we might have a
I'm gonna
dive
take this
coming in
down.
though. Carlton's in a little bit of trouble, gonna be knocked up, taken low, and might well be killed, but he's got support for his blood. Goes the way of Chimera, as Nas forced to back away.
Shredder, he did not put a shield onto Chimera to get an assist right there, so this poor Yordle, small legs, roamed all the way to the top side of the map, no assist, but we take the kill anyway. It's going to be a kill, and it's most likely going to be a top lane tower, traded for a bot lane tower from Crispberg. And right now, Sof is taking the second Rift Herald, whilst Taxa is invading his bot side of the map. And again, this is what I would like to see a little bit earlier on in the game from Taxa. You've got this Sovereign bot lane, use that Tristana to your advantage, use it to get a little bit more deep vision, as they have right now in the bot quadrant of Sof's jungle, and try to keep pressuring the map. Now I'm expecting possibly the Tristana to go towards the mid lane of the map. I would say top, but in 1 minute and 20 seconds, the third dragon is coming up, and you definitely don't want to be giving MNM Soul Point for free.
Because with the way that things are going, they may well be able to secure it for themselves. I felt like it's been shaded slightly by MNM so far this game, and our analysts agree, of course. Just a reminder, below the scoreboard at the top, you have got the momentum meter. And our analysts are behind the scenes just saying, oh, looks like MNM are doing all right, aren't they? And then the momentum meter moves. Such a stupid champion. Switch. He's just very silly. But as Astralis Talent are moving into the river, they want to make sure that this dragon isn't going to go the way of MNM without a fight at the very least. And as we said, it's so important to be the incumbent around these objectives. And it looks like Astralis want to make sure this mid-wave is in a position they can do that. But MNM are doing the exact same with Rift Herald.
Yeah, and also Astralis, what they need to do is make sure they never lose track of Mishigu on that rat. That's the open fire with all the buffs from Lulu and Orianna and the shields and everything is going to be very, very bad news for Astralis. Kaylem and Sof are finding themselves very deep into that jungle, but they're going to pull out, and now it's actually Astralis that have to walk through an Orianna ball from a choke point.
Well, that's the thing. We saw the attempted engage from Mishigu from Sob, but now he's going to go berserk right onto the rat, but the team fight isn't kicking off, and now it's just yet. Taxa moving forward, now trying to get onto Chimera. He's going to be forced to bash away, but he's going to get taken down. Astralis will be able to get the resets off on the other side, though. Is looking for blood. Sencux on the back line is just healing away, staying safe. Mishigu looking for someone to let fire onto. Taxa went too deep. It's actually just going to be a 1-for-1 exchange.
And actually, I think MNM right here do win the fight because Kaylem is going to go back to base. He's going to get full HP. There's also a plant at the bottom of the map for Soft to take and get full HP. Kaylem is just going to TP back in. Kiba has no mana. They're going to get the TP in, but Chrisberg, Kiba are very low on HP. They're 50%. Soft took the plant. Kaylem is TPing back in. He has no bar for his Megana. But overall, I feel like this exchange is going in favor of MNM right now because they've got a better core HP average for themselves, plus the Gnar coming back in that can transform back into Megana and have that ultimate available. Chimera TP'd in for good measure as well. So all in all, that was a pretty good fight for MNM. They secured the third dragon, which means in 4 minutes and 50 seconds time, Astralis are gonna have to find a way into that river, because if they don't, Soul will go over to MNM, and Ocean Soul is something a lot of teams are looking for.
And I mean, very notably as well, you look at the members who went down, it was Taxa who died from Astralis talent, so no smite available. And while the Bernardo ultimate didn't hit too much, it was kind of that go button and everything kicked off.
And that was really close to being like a 3 or 4 mana ultimate right there from Kiba, but the second it misses, actually Mishiku is able to cleanse that and starts putting down the damage. The only unfortunate thing is that Mishiku is towards the bot side of the screen trying to kill Sencux and Carlsen, whilst Kiba and Chrisberg are on so low HP. Had Mishiku actually played with his ultimate towards the top side of the map on that second fight that was happening, I feel like MNM would have won this fight even more. Nevertheless, it's a 1 fight for them. They're 1 in kills. They got the third dragon as well, and then marching towards a soul point.
As you mentioned, Ocean Dragon, it's a hard one to fight into, especially when you look at this and say, hey, these two teams, we've seen it already. Astralis MNM struggled to engage onto Astralis even with the better engaged tools of the two teams. If the roles are reversed and Astralis are like, well, we need to be the ones engaging onto MNM because they're around Baron or they're the ones sieging, we need to stop this from happening. If you're regenning, then the damage that you're taking is not going to be that sad.
And I feel like you saw it right there.
Oh, that's Chrisberg gone, and Kiba may well go the same way. A massive ultimate sees him a bit slower, but Kaylem's the only one collapsing there, and it's 2 kills for MNM.
That is a sprint down Baron lane for MNM. Really well played right there, catching the duo bot lane from Astralis. Mind you, Taxa is still up. He can dive through the back of the pit. We saw it in our previous game as well versus XL. It could be the case. Again, Taxa's gonna be chilling around. They just need to have vision onto that pit, but Sencux is playing the Swain. He can actually give them vision.
He's hanging around, Kaylem jumping out, looking for an orange to 2. The massive stun comes down. Now MNM are looking to take this fight. They murder both members of Astralis talent. Taxa manages to pick up one. Carlsen actually sneaks away for a second before going down. And now Taxa needs to try and get a kill. Won't be able to get the resets down. As MNM, they're going to be too low to continue the Baron, but they take the fight nonetheless.
Yeah, they sacrifice 3 of their members, but they're making sure the Baron is not going down because they leave MNM with super low HP bars. And again, you see beautiful ultimate right there from Kaylem. But Carlsen onto that Gwen goes completely immune right there and heals through a bunch of that damage with his ultimate. And once in the bubble, the Twitch actually has to walk on top of the Gwen to put any damage down, which caused a lot of damage. But nevertheless, yes, MNM run away with 3 kills in their pocket. But very importantly, Astralis stopped the Baron because they leave them so low. And Chrisberg and Kiba were just on their way, so they could completely wipe them out and start the Baron themselves. Really good call right there from MNM to turn the fight around and not play the 50-50.
Now that means that Baron is still available, so it's still a threat on the map, and you've got to imagine MNM looking more and more like the team that will be able to secure it. Remember, if they win this game, then they're tying up with not only Astralis talent, but a bunch of other teams. Looking at Nariki X7 on that 2-3 scoreline right now, and this league could not really be closer. I mean, it could be closer because you could have all the teams on tied scorelines to some extent, but I'm looking at Astralis talent there on the back foot a little bit. They need to find a way to potentially grow back into this game because they've got good late game scaling, but they've only got a minute until that next dragon.
Yeah, and I'd like to see a little bit more pressure on the side lanes, right? Send one of your members to go toward the top side of the map, push that wave down, but they're just so afraid because the mid lane tower is missing. They're so afraid to just have Misigu and Shredder there in the middle of the lane without a tower at the back, shoving in the wave. And that mid lane wave is going to be so important because it's going to be the wave that will allow you to move down the river to contest for that soul, right? So MNM really needs to shove in that wave, and they need to be as a four-man core to be able to stand against Astralis. Sof has found himself Taxa.
Poured out. Sof needs to be careful. A lot of damage coming on through. Who's going to go berserk? No one coming into the backline, looking for Sof. He's going to be able to ult, but he won't be able to survive as he goes down. That's 2 for Astralis Talent as they chase towards Shredder. He's going to go low, but gets under tower just in time. And I think Astralis Talent have just denied the Dragon Soul.
That was such an insane ward right there by Astralis, really deep into that mid lane, allows Carlson to come in. And yes, even though they do not have hard engage, if Sof faces like this, Astralis are able to punish. Really good TP from Carlson right there to stop any backup as well from MNM from coming in. And this is their soul being denied. The first one that's going to go towards Astralis as well. And that was a very good fight. We were mentioning previously how Astralis are finding it really hard to engage these fights. We saw previously like Kiba trying to cheekily ult through a wall to maybe get a 2 to 3 to 4 man ultimate to start a fight. It's really difficult because you don't necessarily have a very hard go button other than the Renata ult. And right there you see Sof had to flash away from it. A bunch of flashes were expended that fight as well for Chimera and Shredder. And now that Baron is in the mix, now that these AD carries have multiple items, almost second item from Misigu, Crispec has 2.5 items in his name, this Baron is going to start looking a lot more enticing because you can take it much faster.
Oh, Kiba might be in a bit of trouble here, but he's going to be able to get some damage done. The soft support is coming on through, but the tower has been secured by MNM. They're happy with what they gained and are going to just back away. Breaking over the mid lane could be pretty big.
Oh, he has the ball.
See, that's what I'm saying. It's the perfect engage solution.
Okay, I'm just saying, I think he has the ball on him because he can get a W and be fast.
No. It's all about the ultimate.
Fast boy rat. I don't think this is for a sombrero.
Archer, I'm just saying, in the interview, MNM, I want you to ask about the engage rat. Trust me, it's good.
He doesn't have flash.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't need it.
Just
W
do it.
speed.
Just do it.
And the ult's for engage. And then Wukong dives in and is like, watch out!
You're so emotive today.
I'm just,
I really hope. Okay, guys.
I've been
At the end of our show, the production is always making a little mix of our entire day. I really hope they've recorded what you've been doing with your hands all day and how emotive you've been.
I'm just sleep
And just put it at the very end.
That's all
So
it is.
please make sure to stay after the post game, after last game, because this is gonna be gold Viper.
Let's go to bed. We've got another game after this, of course. We've got Bifrost Singularity to round out the day. So there's plenty more League of Legends action to be enjoyed here at the NLC Division 1. Not Division 2, not Division 3, Division 1. And MNM setting up around this Baron. They're not necessarily looking to do it particularly, but they just want to gain some control around the vision. And they get one of those blue ones, but they don't get the other one.
Again, you see, we mentioned how Baron is on the menu right now, and both teams just want to make sure they've got infinite vision around it, that none of the two teams can actually sneak in and take it, because they both have such incredibly fast clear speed when it comes to these neutral objectives. So you see Astralis moving in, taking vision, walking out. MNM walking in, putting down vision, walking out. And this is going to be the name of the game. I'm just, again, suffering seeing how the side lanes are just not being pressured at all. Like right now, it's the first time I've seen Sencux go towards the bottom of the map and shove it away. Kaylem is usually the one doing it for MNM, and this is a big impact of the two towers that are missing in the mid lane. Having Tristana, Renata push forward, they got punished previously, and then they gave away the dragon. Having Misigu or Shredder walk forward to push in the wave, they can very easily get jumped on and get punished. Look at where Astralis is. Misigu,
he's hiding.
He was hiding.
He's still hiding. He's going to get sped up and now might look for a little bit of damage, but needs to be careful of the location of every member of Astralis Talent, because while they're not necessarily going to be able to push forward too hard, if they get a good flank, we've seen it already, how powerful they can be. Astralis Talent are pitched up on that top side, commanding the Baron area. On the bot side, we've got Dragon spawning in a minute and a half. Remember, this will still be sole point for MNM Gaming, so it's still a massive battleground, but things just seem to have taken a little bit of a slow turn as both of these teams just really wary of giving up too much, because if either team loses the fight now, surely that's got to be Baron for their opposition.
3 words.
Okay.
Push, side, lanes. You see Kaylem on the bot side of the map. You see Carson on the top side of the map. Can very easily take your your Orianna under a tower, have her push. Sencux right now cannot do that because she has the exhaust together with the flash. She doesn't have the teleport available if Astralis choose to fight. But like the side lanes have constantly been abandoned. I mean, we saw even Kerberos at like 27 minutes. He had like 300 CS plus. So it's a relatively low-ish CS game, especially after the 23rd, 24th minute mark, because you will see that bot lane and mid lane have been grouping actually a lot for the side of MNM. So a lot of the side lane waves have been abandoned, and the one that's picking them up mostly is Kaylem, who has his TP available most of the time, but he also wants to be charging his Naba. But right here, again, another top lane wave completely went missing.
But these teams, they're probing, looking for something potentially. Michigu going invisible, Taxa going invisible. Michigu is just looking. He's going to open up the fire towards Chrisberg, who's going to be able to get away. Nice ultimate from Tristana will disengage that attempted fight as MNM.
That was ult for ult right there, but for Michigu, it's much more important to have his ultimate up and available because Chrisberg is only using his for peeling. He can still do a bunch of damage diving in with Tristana. So we need to see if MNM want to take this fight, it will not have that crucial AD carry ult for them.
They're moving back down towards the Dragon. It's going to spawn up now. Astralis talent need to get going because MNM have started up the objective. Now they're moving forward. Tax gets the It's Kaylem. He gets the ultimate onto 2. Those seconds moving forward. Down berserk. The damage. The Dragon is secured, but it won't be enough to save this fight. You've got to imagine as MNM are being ripped to shreds. The reset from Taxa as he picks up a second. Carlson grabbing kills. Maybe they only get the 2, but can they move to Baron?
Yeah, and it was indeed a problem. Michigu not having the ultimate right here. He has to play very short range, and if you're playing short range into Tristana, Swain, Taxa on the Viego, and Gwen, you're gonna get swallowed whole, and that's exactly what happened. Michigu had to flash out, and he still gets eaten alive. Soft dies as well, which means there's no smite for MNM, and Astralis slowly but surely gonna crawl themselves out of this game. Yes, they lose Ocean Soul, and that's really big, but now at least they have Baron. They can use Carlson on that Gwen on a side lane. They can use Sencux on a side lane. Both have teleports up and available, and their core 3-man member, Viego, Tristana, and Renata are very evasive.
We're about to hit the 30-minute mark. We're going to have another look at this fight, and there's just so much damage coming through from Astralis. They only get 2 kills, but they could have got a couple more. That
was a great Renata ultimate coming in as well from Kiba. Really beautiful stuff. Michigu, yes, insta-cleansed it, but Soft starts hitting his friends right there. I think Kaylem started hitting his friends there as well. So there was a little bit of confusion. Michigu, of course, not having the ultimate, I think, was the biggest boo-boo right there for MNM. It was impossible to take this fight. And Astralis win the fight, take the Baron, lose the Soul Boy.
We're at 30 minutes here at the current patch, which means that we are in the point where if you lose a team fight, you might just lose the game. This segment brought to you by 12.10. And for MNM Gaming, they're just sitting back. They need to weather the storm because it's the famous saying, Baron is temporary, but Dragon Soul's forever. And they're going to be able to get the advantage if they can weather the storm for a few seconds longer. And we know that MNM are pretty good at disengaging when Astralis have tried to engage on them, but they're going to have to be pretty careful because it looks like Astralis, with their pushing power, are looking to crack open the base. Won't be able to do so just yet, though. Members of MNM are moving forward. Kaylem has caught out Carlson. He's going to be able to dash away, and this inner tower may well be forfeit as it does go down.
Yeah, and look at that. While this is happening, another mid lane wave is pushing. That would mean that if Chrisberg walks a little bit close to the tower, puts down the bomb, this is going to fall. Soft is finding the
nice engage coming through. They're layering the CC. There comes the ultimate coming down, though. Berserk. Michigu does so much damage before being deleted, as Soft will also fall. The attempted engage goes awry, and with Astralis having 5 members, could this be it?
Again, Kiba with a very clutch ultimate gets Michigu. Michigu has no cleanse right there, which means he's just shooting down his entire team. And Astralis, 5 members strong, are looking for the finish.
They're looking for the first Nexus tower. They will find it. Kaylem is doing his best to defend. Needs to go large. Will be able to do so. Ultimate only onto Taxa, who's going to take a decent amount of damage, but it's going to be the Gnar that gets cut down as Taxa goes into stasis. Second Nexus tower falls, and just like that, a close game will end as Shredder dies at his Nexus. It looks like it was going to be a long one, but in the end, Astralis talent take the win.
Again, it didn't look
the cleanest.
It didn't look the most assertive, but it's nevertheless an Astralis win. I think we saw in the stats as well, Astralis after week 2 last split, they were 2-2, and then they ended 6-12. I think it's really good for the confidence as well, especially with the new roster, to go into week 3 and get that third victory under their belt right here, especially against team which technically on paper you should be beating, and it wasn't clean, but we take the W's.
A dub is a dub is a dub. And it was a very Astralis talent style of win. And now to break this one down, it's a Dane and his friends. Take it away, Desk.
Why the Dane? Why is that smile? What is that smile?
You question the Dane, I question the friends.
What? Hey, yo?
Oh my,
Should we just leave?
I never thought I would ask for medical assistance on the desk. I was punished.
Wow.
Well, welcome everyone back into the desk after I was hard. I don't know how to pick this one up. I mean, it's like MNM. They were going for the objectives. They were going for the late game. They got the soul. It didn't work out. Why? I want to know why.
This was just one of those games where a team gets Baron and ends. This felt like an actual 12-9, like...
This was a
This felt like
clear-cut
an older,
throw, because it's not
Yeah,
even like,
like
it's not even the fact that you didn't have a scaling aspect in what
No.
you had, right? Orianna, already on death cap as well. Twitch, with the Yuumi as well. This whole setup to it, I think Trouble touched nicely on this as well. The fact that Michigu no longer had that R, it was so easy for them to walk up forward. Yes, they had to watch out from the Orianna, but it just felt like they were so rushed and focused on the soul. Like, you could have still kept the fight where you fought them at the first river bush that continued. Instead, what happened is that they just went immediately into the Drake pit. And by doing so, they let themselves be collapsed. The entire story of this game is that if you're first on the objective, you can turn on towards your opponent, play with the spacing. But in the last fight that mattered the most, that's not what MNM did. They tunneled visioned, and that opened up for Keeper to come in and split them up with his Renata ultimate, them to be scattered. Someone was focusing the Drake, one was shooting his teammates, and the other one was just trying to fight the battle. And it was just MNM that collapsed and was not on the same page.
And we keep talking about this. Twitch is a viable hyper carry in the late game, but you need that ulti. If you don't have the ulti, I think it was Trouble that said it on the previous week, you're a really close AD carry, so you need to be aware of your positioning. And we talked about the vision of MNM. At the end, do you think that was the key component?
I guess so. They just kind of lost sight of how to play team fights, I think.
Yeah.
Beyond a certain part. Like, I feel like for the first sort of 20-ish and a half minutes, right? It felt like they had a pretty decent understanding. They were always, for the most part, the first ones to the objective. They understood that part. They even got to the part where they get the soul. But again, losing that fight at that crucial timer into losing the Baron like that, I think it's just a lapse in judgment.
Yeah.
Come that final fight, and I think also Michigu trading his ult right before the Hex soul spawned up for the Tristana armor. It's not the same level of value. Like,
Well, we can talk about all we want. I genuinely feel like from the side of MNM, we saw a decent early game coming out from them. We saw a good mid game as well, leading up to the fact that, you know, the Baron they had on Astralis, where they just, you know, get to take the team fight around it. They really get to display around that Baron how the team comp is supposed to function, right? They start up the objective and they turn, right? They leave the objective behind. They turn onto one Sencux onto Swain. They just blow it up immediately. But because the fight got so scattered, it got so orchestrated later, they weren't able to replicate what had made them so successful at getting to this point in the game. And unfortunately, that's sometimes the story. When we look at Astralis, though, I still feel like they look so shaky, like they're not convincing.
yeah, I agree. I think there's some positives to take away, but realistically, for a majority of the game, MNM outplayed the potential win conditions that Astralis actually had. They had a very strong Tristana, yes, but that came after a very long time. And whilst he was ahead of Michigan, I feel like they didn't necessarily leverage that strength particularly. It felt like they lent on the mistakes of MNM a little bit as opposed to actually playing on their own strengths.
Oh, yeah.
So again, not the most convincing bit, and that's going to be the story for, I feel like, for Astralis for a little while, is finally, you know, getting consistent wins that actually look strong.
It's a good topic, and maybe we should discuss it with the interview that we're going to jump into now. Sencux is with us, the mid laner, coming in with the Swain. Hello, Sencux. Welcome back into the show.
Hello, hello.
This was a victory. Yes, it was. But how nervous were you throughout the entire game? Because don't judge me right now, but it seemed like it was MNM games to lose instead of Astralis games to win. Do you agree with that?
I mean, yeah, towards the end it probably was like that. I mean, it for sure was like that. It was not really our game to win anymore. I think we did some mistakes in the early game that made it hard for us, like really. And yeah, we were just like too AFK, I think, in general. Like, yeah, I don't know. It was a bit of a disaster.
Do you think the mental went down throughout the middle of the game and Astralis was just riding the wave?
Honestly, I don't think so. I think it was like probably last bit. It would have been a bit more rough, I would say. Like we had tendencies to like just like fall over and die, and this was one of the games that it would probably have happened. So it was better like this at least.
It's a good start for the week from Astralis, so that's a plus for you guys. Obviously, you guys know where to work upon. But I want to make a question. Why coming back to Sencux, though? What made you shift? Yeah, I'm interested on that, because it seems like it was a boost.
No, I mean, I don't know. I was just going back a bit and then, yeah, switching back. Like, that's what I've always played under. In the beginning, I just wanted to try something more personal in Cress, because it's my first name. But, yeah, I don't know. I realized, like, I've always been Sencux the entire time I played, so, yeah.
So it has no relevance that you changed the name and Astralis is a little bit stronger right now. It was due to the work through the spring split to summer split. You don't feel comfortable, more comfortable playing with that name?
No, it doesn't really matter to me, to be honest. But yeah.
Okay, it's honest.
Nice
it's honest.
I mean, it's kind of nice to see the name, you know. It has some history, some personal history.
If you can, where do you think Astralis needs to work to take the next step?
Well, first I need to not be sick. That would be number one. Two, then yeah, I mean, we're working on some stuff. I think we're going forward. Like we're definitely getting better. I think we had like a few good games against some of the more middle of the pack, lower of the pack teams. But it's like, for example, the game against Excel, I feel like we should be able to close it out, and like that's the main thing for now.
Okay, I love it. Dude, I'm going to let you go. Speedy recovery. I don't want to trouble you anymore. So congrats on the win as well for Astralis. And I'll see you soon. Speedy recovery.
Thank you.
It's really rough.
Honestly, respect to him. Do you know how many players we have that dodge an interview? This man is sick and still comes on the interview.
Yep.
He likes Sencux.
We like him a lot. We like him a lot. Like, that takes a lot. Like, Kemeta did it on the previous week. I was like, no, I'm not going to even bother you. Like, 2 questions, get out. Go rest a little bit. So, obviously, the mental is really complicated to play as well when you're sick.
Yeah, no, I think, wellness as a player is definitely something that comes into effect. Who would have guessed? If you're unwell, you might make poor decisions. Who would have thought? But yeah, definitely a lot of respect to Chris for coming and doing the interview. But I think, like he said, he didn't really reveal too much. But like he said, like they don't seem necessarily like too happy with their own performances to a point. Like they feel like they could be playing, a little more confidently to close out some of these game states they find themselves in when they are ahead. Obviously, this game was maybe the slight opposite of that.
I didn't want to ask you this question because I didn't know if it had already been answered, but did you guys ask them already, like, what the difference was between the coaching staff that they now have instead?
We tackled it before, yeah. And obviously, they're feeling better right now. And it shows on the games as well. Let's see if it's enough to bring them to the next step. It seems close, but they still need to get there. A team that almost got there was MNM. This is why we have the opportunity to talk with Kaylem, who's on the other side. Welcome back. I mean, so close. What happened? Because you had everything going on for you guys in that game. Can you run me, like, what was the early plan, and where do you think it collapsed?
Hello, thanks for having me.
Always.
Yeah, we definitely had a better early game than last week. I think last week we couldn't really get to play the game, so playing this game felt definitely much better. But when mid-game came, we were kind of afraid of things that enemy could do, but they couldn't really do them. So I feel like we overgrouped a lot and we didn't play silent enough. So we were just in general like scared. And I think that costed us the game. Also some hesitation.
Okay, that confidence that you needed to close out the game. And I want to make you a question that can be a little tricky to actually reply to me. When we go into a big patch like this, and you guys are still looking for the meta and all that, do you believe it's better to just go straight forward for the champions that you are comfortable with and try to force your play style, or to go to something that people are playing, like the Lulu and Twitch? Because Michigo is a beast when it comes like with Samira and things that is in your face. And now he's playing Twitch, and it seems like you guys are deviating from the champions that makes MNM MNM.
Yeah, well, I think definitely it showed against against X7. We played something that was really aggressive, and you could play that on the previous patch. So with the durability changes, we had to figure out what was good. We tried going for things that we felt were strong, but I think in the end, what you need to look for is a mix of what you can play and what you're comfortable with and what is strong, because some things just fall off completely, and you need like some champions you just need to drop them because they're not good anymore. So I think you need to find a balance for sure.
And do you believe you guys are close to that balance?
Well, we had way better direction in scrims this week. They were way more productive. We had I feel like we were on a slump last week, but it's way better now. I mean, Chimera is not sick, so that's really good. He picked himself up, and everyone is generally like playing better. So I think we're going in the right direction. I hope we can keep it up, and hopefully we can get the win on Wednesday.
Okay, let's see what happens. Kaylem, thank you so much for the interview. It was a rough game, but you guys did amazingly, regardless of the end of the game. Thank you so much, man.
Thanks for having me.
I'll see you soon. It's a tough topic to talk about. Where do you go? Meta? Do you go for where you feel comfortable? Is it even reliable to go for where you feel comfortable? It's a tough one for a team like...
Yeah, no, I think it always is. And again, we don't often have these huge meta shifts like this kind of right in the, well, it's kind of at the start of the split, right? So that can help maybe later on, but to have, you know, yourselves play on one version of the game, week one, and then all of a sudden everything gets flipped up, it's a difficult call to make. I think especially from a coaching staff position, you probably had so many things prepped moving into like sort of the whole season perhaps, and then all of a sudden the game just kind of changes on you, and trying to find the identity again can be tough.
You say, I'm actually quite vocal about this. You say that about coaching staff. I think it's the same for everyone who works with league players, producers, broadcast. The game is ever changing.
Yeah.
There's no game that changes as much as we do with League all the time. You know, 2-week patches coming through, big patches hitting, game completely shifting. It's great because I always feel like it's a new experience. It feels good playing it. But as a player, you always have to be so adaptable. You always have to be hungry to learn new stuff as well. So I genuinely feel like it's tough at first, but it is also one of the most hardest esports to adapt to that we are playing and working in.
There's like a time scope on it, right? Like how fast teams are to adapt to patches, right? We've kind of highlighted earlier on in the day teams like Nariki, who we feel like had a pretty decent read on the drafts for this meta. And I'm not going to say that I feel like objectively MNM have had all 3 games that we've seen of them on 12-10 that they've had a poor read, but yeah, it's not particularly been the best for them, unfortunately.
It has not been the best for them. Now looking into the standings, not a lot has shifted, or else Goldberg is going to attack me, but MNM 1-4 at the end of the day. Meanwhile, Astralis are jumping into the top, almost getting close to Bifrost. If Bifrost loses the next game, they'll be tied up for second game. And
I've already said, Archer, they've got their tax return game. I don't know
My desk today is so spicy. We're talking